Hello, welcome to Africa Facts. Please be sure to subscribe so as you don't miss our updates. In today's video, we'll be highlighting South Sudan as it have been named often to be a failing state, so let's find out. South Sudan, also called Southern Sudan, country located in northeastern Africa. Its rich biodiversity includes lush savannas, swamplands, and rainforests that are home to many species of wildlife. Prior to 2011, South Sudan was part of Sudan, its neighbor to the north. South Sudan's population, predominantly African cultures who tend to adhere to Christian or animist beliefs, was long at odds with Sudan's largely Muslim and Arab northern government. South Sudan's capital is Juba. South Sudan, which gained independence from Sudan on the 9th of July 2011, is the world's newest country, home to a diverse array of mainly Nilotic ethno-linguistic groups that settled in the territory in the 15th through 19th centuries. South Sudanese society is heavily dependent on seasonal fluctuations in precipitation and seasonal migration. The land comprising modern-day South Sudan was conquered first by Egypt and later ruled jointly by Egyptian British colonial administrators in the late 19th century. Christian missionaries propagated the spread of English and Christianity, rather than Arabic and Islam, leading to significant cultural differences between the northern and southern parts of Sudan. When Sudan gained its independence in 1956, the southern region received assurances that it would participate fully in the political system. However, the Arab government in Khartoum reneged on its promises, prompting two periods of civil war 1955 to 1972 and 1983 to 2005, in which as many as 2.5 million people died, mostly civilians, due to starvation and drought. The Second Sudanese Civil War was one of the deadliest since World War II, and left southern Sudanese society devastated by humanitarian crises and economic deterioration. Peace talks resulted in a U.S.-backed comprehensive peace agreement signed in January 2005, which granted the South a 6-year period of autonomy followed by a referendum on final status. The result of this referendum, held in January 2011, was a vote of 98% in favor of secession. Slowly, the newly formed and internationally recognized country started building itself up in the midst of chaos. So let's dive into studying the challenges facing South Sudan. Number 1. Ethnic wars. Within South Sudan, the government was faced with escalating ethnic violence, particularly between the Nuer and Merle peoples in the Jonglei state, with cattle rustling being one of the main issues, as well as a seemingly endless string of retaliatory attacks that killed more than 1,500 people, displaced tens of thousands in the years following independence. The new government also had to deal with rebel activity from several groups active in Jonglei and other states, which also was closely related to ethnic divides. Amnesty offers from the government to the many rebel groups met with mixed success. Number 2. Food insecurity. Widespread lack of access due to economic downturn, civil insecurity, lingering impact of floods, and prolonged conflict. Despite sustained humanitarian assistance, food insecurity still affects large segments of the population, driven by macroeconomic challenges that have resulted in rampant food and non-food inflation, insufficient food supplies due to a stagnant agricultural production, livelihood losses owing to consecutive years with widespread floods, and the escalation of organized violence at the subnational level since 2020. About millions of people are estimated to be severely food insecure during the lean season between April and July 2022. Number 3. Debt crisis. South Sudan is burdened by considerable debt because of increased military spending and high levels of government corruption. Economic mismanagement is prevalent. Civil servants, including police and the military, are not paid on time, creating incentives to engage in looting and banditry. South Sudan has received more than $11 billion in foreign aid since 2005, largely from the US, the UK, and the EU. Inflation peaked at over 800% per year in October 2016 but dropped to 118% in 2017. The government has funded its expenditures by borrowing from the central bank and foreign sources, using forward sales of oil as collateral. The central bank's decision to adopt a managed floating exchange rate regime in December 2015 triggered a 97% depreciation of the currency and spawned a growing black market. Corruption, lack of education, and many more. South Sudan still has the potential to raise and firmly stand strong by proper utilizing its liquid gold, that is oil. Please be sure to give a comment on the question for South Sudan's: is oil being a curse or a blessing?